Hello, this is Names of Goblin, and this is probably going to be the longest video I've ever made or ever will make, other than probably other preview videos. This is the preview video for Oath of the GateWatch. For those who don't know, it is a Magic the Gathering trading card game that is, quite frankly, really, really awesome. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go through the uh, entire card list because that would take too long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the top 50 most expensive cards in that set. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go by their effects off TCG Player. So, I hope you guys enjoy. Now, the first one is a Nissa Voice of Zendikar. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about each card, talk about their effect, and then talk about whether or not they're going to be useful on anything other than limited. The first most expensive card in the set is Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. With Nissas, you kind of have to expect a really good reception, especially since it's green. Most of them have pretty good effects that aren't ultimate. For those who are new at Magic and are just looking at the ultimates, don't. If you have enough time to do the ultimate, you probably should have won the game already. That being said, well, unless you're playing Super Friends, in which case you want to have ultimate first turn. But Nissa's 3-drop, 2 green, 1 colorless, generic colorless. That's going to be a thing. Her +1 is put a 1/1 or 0/1 green plant creature token on the battlefield. Now, that I can actually see use. I would have liked it a lot better if it was saplings. But with this, you have options. You have another creature to block and protect Nissa. Her -2 put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That is going to actually be pretty good for standard. Now, the reason why I say that is because a lot of standard decks as of right now are running +1/+1 counter, very heavy decks, like Siege Rhinos and stuff like that. So, having a 3-drop +1/+1 on every creature, come on. That's going to be really good anyway. And her -7, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of lands you control. Now, I don't see that being used at all, or at least very often. It's a really good ultimate, yes. But like I said earlier, if you have enough time to do an ultimate, you have enough time to win the game. The next one down is Kotelzak, the Great Distortion. Now, before Battle for Zendikar, I was incredibly hyped for the Eldrazi. Now I'm Eldrazi'd out. So I'm very critical eye at any Eldrazi card that are coming out in this new set. It's a legendary creature, Eldrazi. 8 generic colorless, 2 have to be colorless. Now, for those old Magic players that don't understand this, it looks like a little diamond. And basically that's colorless land. You have to use land that produces colorless mana. However, any card that would produce colorless mana now produces that type of colorless. So, for example, Sol Ring produces 2 of those. Let's see. Ancient Tomb gives 2 of them. If it produces a regular generic colorless before, it produces a pure colorless, or what I'm going to call, I don't really know what I can call it, but it has to be, it's actual colorless land. It's not generic. Its effect is when you cast Kotelzak, the Great Distortion, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. That's going to be pretty good in and of itself, especially for Tron players, because you want cards in your hand. You want to keep going. You want to make Tron a little bit faster. So I can see that being put in Tron because the lands now produce that type of colors to make it easier to come out. It is a 10-drop, but if you have the land it is a pretty good card, especially if you don't have the hand power. So, it has Menace, which is pretty good. And discard a card with colorless or converted mana cost X. Counter target spell with that mana cost. That effect, I think, is going to be the biggest effect used. Especially, it gives Tron a little bit of control. Because with Tron, you have a lot of different colored, or you have a lot of different mana costs. If your opponent casts something that ends you, you can get rid of that in your hand that you had just acquired to get something that you really, really want, which is just game control. Chandra Flamecaller. First, I was really freaked out because I didn't like this Planeswalker, but when I started looking at it more, I really started to like this Planeswalker. It's a 6-drop, yes. Starts with 4 loyalty. With red, 6 is kind of hard to do. That's just a fact. By the time you have 6 mana, you should already have won the game, if you're running a pure burn. What this is for a higher drop, longer game, like Jeskai, where you want to lower the speed, make it good and slow. And this will be really a good deck for you. Her plus 1, put 2, 3, 1 red elemental creature tokens with haste on the battlefield. Exile them at the beginning of your next end step. That actually, I think, is going to be pretty good, especially in Jeskai. Just because it gives you 2 free creatures. There are 3 ones, which aren't shabby. Yeah, they get beat with 1 hit, but at the same time, they're going to kill most of what they hit. Her 0 effect, discard all cards in your hand, then draw that many cards plus 1. So it's a Wheel of Fortune, a free Wheel of Fortune, which I really, really like. I think that's going to be the most used effect in this card. That is, in and of itself, is going to be very good. Her minus X, which I don't think is going to be used as much, but it could be used. Chandra Pyromaster Flamecaller deals X damage to each creature. Now, one thing I'm going to say is that 4 damage to every creature, that's a Langrish. But if you don't have Langrish, you probably should do something else. If you want to make this deck, or that card really delete everything, is when you do like 3 or 4 loyalty counters up, and then hit them, every creature gets 7 damage. But that is a double-edged sword too, because that is your own creatures that get hit with this too. It is a field wipe, which I don't know if it's going to be used. Kodo's X Return. I haven't seen this as much, but I've heard a lot of good things about this. 3 drop, 1 red. Good color for red, or a good amount of drop for red. It's not 1 or 2 drop like it should be, but it's good. Devoid. This card has no color. Kodo's X Return deals 2 damage to each creature. That's a good start. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may exile this card from your graveyard, and if you do, it deals 3 damage to each creature. 3? Or is it 5? I'll go back to that. Even if it's not 5, even if it's 3, that's a really good effect. Just do a free 5 damage, or free 8, or free 7 damage, depending on how this picture turns out. I don't think it's going to be 5 damage. I think it's free 3 damage, but I just want to make sure. I'll get back to that a little later. Kalitas, Trader of Get, is the next card. It's around $9 right now. Lifelink, 4 drop, which is decent for a lifelink monster. If a non-token creature your opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So you kill your opponent, you kill your opponent's monsters, you get rewarded for it, which I think uh, makes it a little bit better. The 2 black specifically for its mana cost uh, backs it up a little bit. 2 and then black, sacrifice another vampire or zombie, put 2 1/1/1 counters on Kalatas, Trader of Gat. So you could buff this up a lot by sacrificing your creatures. Or if your opponent's running vampires and zombies, you can sacrifice their creatures too. Because it doesn't say. Oh wait, it kind of implies it. Never mind. I'd have to look that up. I'm not gonna say you can, but I'm not gonna say you can't either. Oh well, it is 5 damage for Cortal's return, which makes it incredibly good. It could kill Siege Rhino right now, which is good. Which is very, 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 very good. Moving on from my little blunder there, Linvala, the Preserver. 4 colorless, 2 plains. Legendary creature Angel, mythic rare, flying when Linvala enters the battlefield. If an opponent has more life than you, you gain 5 life. That's a pretty good start. It's a high cost, but you're going to get pretty good effects with it too, because it's an angel. Angels are mostly lifelink and a little bit of control. When Linvala enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying on the battlefield. So you get a free token if your opponent has more creatures than you, which you can't get better than that. Now, I will admit, it is a 6-drop. It's going to be one of those more bulky mythic rares. But it is a good endgame if you want if you want to make an angel deck. A lot of these decks I can see in just different, I don't know, different kitchen table decks. This is EDH, this is Two-Headed Dragon, this is their set. Matter Reshaper, our first regular rare. $7.50. 2 and a colorless, designated colorless. When Matter Reshaper dies, reveal the top card of your library. You may put that card on the battlefield if it's a permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. That is a walking Coco. But it's not quite Coco. It's not quite as good as Coco. Because Coco, I believe, is the top 3 or 5 cards. I'd have to look that up. But it's a walking Coco. Or it can be a walking, pretty much, draw card. It's 3/2, 3-drop, which is good. I actually really like this rare. It's an Eldrazi, so it's really small for an Eldrazi. This is going to be kind of really good and limited. I don't see this being used much in modern, but it could be. Or legacy, or vintage. I don't see this being used in any of them. But this is a good start. Eldrazi Displacer, a regular rare. 3-drop, 1 plain, 2 colorless. Devoid, and then 2 and a colorless. Exile another target creature, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. There is so much shenanigans that can be done with this card. It's not incredibly expensive as far as mana cost, but just the shenanigans you could do. Oh, you summon a really cool monster? You are going to be able to use it until next turn. And then when it's your turn, you can't use it until your next turn. And you can just stop them from using that card. Just over and over and over. You can get them so frustrated. So I don't see this as more of a modern staple as I do just see this as a shenanigans card. And I think a lot of people are going to see that, and that's why it's so expensive. It's because So many people can see the shenanigans you can do with this. And it may have some ulterior use in actual competitive decks. It's a low drop with a lower drop ability. 3/3 for 3, it's not bad. It's not bad, especially for planes. Next one, Mirror Pool. I had gotten 2 play sets when they were $3 a piece, so as of right now, I'm kind of happy because they're $5. Mirror Pool enters the battlefield tapped is a mythic rare. 2 designated colorless and sacrifice Mirror Pool. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new target for that copy. Then 4 and then colorless exile or sacrifice Mirror Pool. Put a token on the battlefield that is a copy of target creature you control, which goes well with a card that I'm going to be talking about later, Eldrazi Mimic. I'm going to be making a deck out of that. Thought Not Seer. 3 in the colorless, designated colorless. When Thought Not Seer enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. So it's a little bit like Thoughtseize, but a lot more expensive. But it's walking and 4/4. When Thought Not Seer leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. It's a good middle ground card. It's a good drawback. Cards in the rare variety, they don't want to make them too good anymore, like they did Arcbound Ravager. So they add little like tidbits, little effects that bring down the card a little bit, which is fine. Load the next page. That was the first 10 cards. The 11th card, Inverter of Truth. 2 colorless and 2 black. Again, the 2 black is going to mess it up a little bit if you don't have Dark Ritual or something like that, as far as a modern deck. Standard, they don't really care because it's a little slower. Devoid, flying. When Inverter of Truth enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library face down, then shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. So, yeah, that just happened. I like the effect, especially now that I look at it for Laboratory Maniac. You can have no graveyard. You can put that out turn 2 with the Laboratory Maniac out, or if you have a Laboratory Maniac out, and then draw a card and you lose the game, but you win the game instead. Oh. Reality Smasher. 4 and a colorless. Trample Haste. 5/5. When Reality Smasher becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, counter that spell unless its controller discards a card. I have a feeling they were trying to replace Spellskite, but not make it as good, and then they failed epically because Spellskite can't be replaced. It's a really good card. Needless to say, it does have a great effect, and I think it will be one of those bulk rares. I'm sorry, but that's not what I think. Oath of Nissa. I think it's one of the best cards in this set. You can disagree. More than welcome to disagree. But this is my opinion. Legendary enchantment, 1-drop, just a forest. When Oath of Nissa enters the battlefield, look top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature, land, or planeswalker card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So it's a little bit like Ponder, except it's green and not quite as good. But this is the effect I really like. You may spend mana as though they were mana of any color to cast planeswalker spells. Can I see Nicol Bolas and Tron, anyone? Maybe not. But it does have a lot of opportunity for improvement, and it does have a lot of opportunity to create card combos that you wouldn't normally be able to create because of the color combinations just being all wacky. Mind you, it says mana of any color, not land of any color. And it can be from anywhere. So if you could create your Urzatron lands, they now produce 3 plains or 3 forests or 2 forests in a plains. It is if it's for planeswalkers. I can see people putting cards other than Karn and Ugin inside their Tron deck. Why you would want to, I have no idea. But I see people doing it. Hissing Quagmire. Giggity giggity goo. Red black or green black. Enters the battlefield tapped. It is a land. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. One black and or one colorless, one black and one green. Hissing Quagmire Giggity becomes a 2/2 black and green elemental creature token with death touch until end of turn. It is still a land. Now, I don't see this being quite as good as, say, Colonnade or Fumarole, but I do see a lot of opportunity for this card in green-black decks, like Golgari decks. Just for the fact that it is a land. Yes, it enters tapped, but it does 2 colors. I see this played a lot in, or else I think I'm going to see this played a lot in kitchen tables because I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of this in packs. It's going to be kind of common. I have a feeling. I may not be right, but I hope I kind of am, so I can get it later. The fact that it becomes an elemental adds potential for elemental EDH. That's all I'm going to say on it. It is a rare, so I think it's going to be one of the more common rares. Seagate Wreckage. Tab, add colorless to your mana pool. Designated colorless, sorry. And then 2, and then a designated colorless. Tap, draw a card. Activate this ability only if you have no cards in hand. It is a rare. Now, do I see this being used? Probably not. I see the draw power being used, but even then, it's a little high. I don't see this being used in Modern or Legacy or Vintage. I see this as an EDH card or a Twin-Headed Giant card. Wandering Fumarole. Shenanigans again. Comes to battlefield tapped, add red or blue to your mana pool. And then 2 colorless, red and blue, until end of turn. This card becomes a 1/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Or elemental creature, sorry, with 0. Switch the creature's target, power, and toughness until end of turn. It is still a land. Switch this creature's power and toughness, sorry. This I see a lot of potential. I see a modern infinite combo turn 3 with Wandering Fumarole and Ceaseless Searblades. You get Wandering Fumarole out turn 1. You get Ceaseless Searblades out turn 2. And then turn 3, you increase its attack to infinity. Or power to infinity and beyond. A little janky, but it could work. Sylvan Advocate. Vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures you control get +2/+2. 2/3, 2 drop. This has a lot of potential in an elemental deck. Elementals are usually the ones that turn their lands into creatures. So when you have something like this, it gives it a +2/+2. It becomes kind of a threat. It is a rare. I don't know if this will be a bulk rare. I kind of hope it isn't, because I see a lot of opportunity with this card, at least in limited. Blech. Worldbreaker. 6 and Forest. Creature Eldrazi, mythic rare. This is going to be a bulk mythic if I ever see one. Devoid. This card has no value, or no color, or value, I guess. When you cast World Breaker, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land breach. 2, and the colorless, sacrifice a land, return World Breaker from your graveyard to your hand. It's good. I'm not going to lie. It's a good card. But is it that good? No. Reason? Mana cost for 1. For 2, its effect is kind of janky. And I'm just going to say that until you find a effect that goes well with it, it's going to be janky. Needle Spires for 19. Needle Spires enter the battlefield tap. It is another manland. Tap, add red or white to your mana pool. Tap 2 colorless, red and white. Needle Spires becomes a 2/1 red and white elemental creature token with double strike until end of turn. It's still a land. This card came out a lot earlier than people thought. This card was actually unofficially released back when it was still getting spoilers for Commander 2015. People were yelling, oh, that's fake. There's no reason why they would add such a good card to a set like this. Well, it's out. It's confirmed. For those who doubted. And I took advantage of that. I had gotten 2 play sets at the time when they were saying it was fake. From eBay. From a reputable seller who knew that it was real. And I got 2 play sets for $1 each. Now I'm dancing on the tears of my enemies that didn't believe me. The card itself isn't that great. It enters the battlefield tapped. It adds 2 colors that should be aggressive but aren't. And then it costs a lot to activate its ability. So I'm probably going to be selling at least 1 playset right away while it's still $3. That being said, it is an elemental creature and it has double strike, even if it's until end of turn. It's a 2/1, which automatically you're getting hit with 2, and then you're getting hit with 2. So as long as your attack or the person or the creature blocking is -3 or below, you're safe. $20. Sphinx of the Final Word. Sphinx of the Final Word cannot be countered. It is a mythic 5 colorless 2 water. Flying hexproof. Instant and sorcery spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. This is going to be a bulk mythic, I guarantee it. It's a good card. A lot of cards are good cards, though. I see this as a one-of, and I see this in EDH really only being used. Okay, let's load the next page. What I can say is this set so far has some pretty good opportunities. Once I hit 30, I'm going to be going to... Not Expeditions, sorry. That'll be a different video. Bearer of Silence, 1 colorless, 1 black. With the Eldrazi black-white that's coming out for Modern, they're getting a lot of support, which is exciting. Even though it drove the price up of Ugin's Eye to $30 from $3. I didn't think that was fair, but what can you do? I was a scrub enough to not buy while it was still cheap. Eldrazi, 2-drop, devoid. When you cast Bearer of Silence, if you may pay an extra 1 in the colorless designated. If you do, creatures or target opponent sacrifices a creature. Flying, Bearer of Silence cannot block, which is a good drawback. I know that people count the value of the card on whether or not it can attack, but there are some uses for this too. If your opponent only has one creature, he really doesn't have a choice on who he sacrifices. Goblin Dark Dwellers. Shout out to my friend Desi Super Chan, who is the Goblin Queen. Creature Goblin. Menace. When Goblin Dark Dwellers enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put in your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. This has a lot of potential. If it weren't a 5-drop. By the time you have 5 in a thing or in a deck that runs goblins, you should have won already. Just saying. What this card is going to excel in is not only EDH, but it's going to excel in in decks where you want a slower outcome to your deck, like Jeskai. But I don't think this will be in Jeskai, because it's a 6-drop. Or no, 5-drop. And it's a 4/4. The effect is really, really good. If you can cheat it out turn 2, turn 3, or this is really, really good late game. If you can put it out, and there are a lot of instant sorceries in your graveyard. Glimpse the unthinkable. Then you're fine. Otherwise, I would go with a smaller goblin, like Warren Instigator or Goblin Guide. Of course. Even with something like this, you're better off or with high drops, you're better off going with something like Krenko Mob Boss or something like that. Ayeli, Eternal Pilgrim. This is another one I got 2 playsets of. One playset for my black-white deck, and another for my different EDH decks that run black and white. What I could say is, this is going to be one of the best EDH or legendary creatures black and white has ever gotten. Minus some of the gods and some of the stuff you get in Commander 2015. But it's the effect that makes it good. It's a legendary creature, core cleric, so you can run it as your commander or general. I mean, that's what some people call it. Death Touch. Tap 1, sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to sacrifice creature's toughness. So I could put this in the deck that I have Eldrazi Mimic in and gain 12 life turn 2. Ooh, yay. That sounds lovely. Thank you. I'd love 12 life. Tap 1, colorless, 1 white, 1 black, sacrifice another creature, exile target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total. Shenanigans. White is the color of life gain and healing, while black is the color of death and destruction. So this deck, or this card, actually really fits its colors really, really well. And I really like it. I think it's going to be used a lot more than people are saying. Mina and Den, Wildborn. Legendary creature, Alpha Ally. 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 green. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. 1 red, 1 green. Return a land you control to its owner's hand. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. I see this being a 1-of in Bloom. If Bloom survives the banning or ban list, I can see this a 1-of in Fringe Bloom decks because it can give. You can return 2 lands to your hand and then play them if you have 2 of them out. And then you can give your 2 Primevale Titans haste or no, trample. Which against things like Affinity, which only run like 1 or 2 creatures, you may need. Affinity, I don't know as much. That's my friend, or that's one of my friends' expertise, because he's the artifact guy down in Detroit. But it's good nonetheless. General Tazri. All I'm going to say about this card, other than this effect, is they finally gave an ally commander. Legendary creature, human ally, 5-drop, 4 colorless, 1 plains. One General Tazai enters the battlefield. You may search your library for an ally creature card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's a tutor. And then tap 1 of every color, which makes it ally commander worthy. Ally creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of colors amongst those creatures. So up to +5/+5, which is good. Crush your Tentacles, a bulk mythic. Surge, 5, and then, or 3 or 5, and then 2 water. Probably 3. Yeah, it's 3. And then 2 water. Surge, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If Crush your Tentacles, Surge cost was paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature token on the battlefield. Again, it's a bulk mythic. It's a good sorcery for the Teferi EDH. But otherwise, it's not going to be seen very much. Jory N. Ruin Diver. 3-drop, 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 blue. Legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. A lot of people are saying this could be the new commander for Izzet. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. So just the draw power itself. It is a 2/3, which in and of itself is very good. And all in all, I give that a pretty good chance of actually making the $3 or $4 mark because of EDH. A lot of people are running the Izzet deck, so I see a lot of potential. Corrupted Crossroads, a rare land, so you gotta think at first that's gonna be really, really good. Wait a minute. Tap, add colorless to your mana pool, and then pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, spend this mana only to cast a spell with Devoid. This card is Devoid Tribal's best friend. Now, Devoid isn't a tribal, I know that, but that's the best I can describe it as. 1 hour, I'm going to be stopping the video no matter how many cards I've gone through. I've gone through a lot so far. Oath of Jace. Another Oath card. When Oath of Jace enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. It's a 3-drop, 2 colorless, 1 island. One thing I've noticed about Oath of the GateWatch is they are Super Friends' best friend. Partially because of the storyline that 5 different planeswalkers are in one area. Well, actually, either 5 or 7 planeswalkers are all in one area at the same time, battling a common enemy. Super Friends at its best, and it's Super Friends with a story, which I kind of like. This particular one isn't going to be the best as far as just by itself being a legendary enchantment 3-drop. It's going to be a Super Friends EDH staple, but I don't see it much anywhere else. Number 30, Captain's Claws. I love this card. I got 3 playsets actually, just for the different decks I could put it in. 2-drop, just 2 colorless, not designated, just 2 generic colorless. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 whenever equipped creature attacks. Put a 1/1 white core ally creature token on the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Equip 1. I see this being used in a lot of different decks. Whether it's modern or competitive worthy, probably not. It has a very low cost, and it's a very good equipment for what it is. You need to get it out very quickly on a pretty powerful creature. And even then, you're only pinging. Just ping, ping, ping. You're putting an extra chip in their statue of life. In the stuff itself, it's good. You're having another creature to attack. They can't counter that creature because it's an activated ability. And because it's a token. I forgot about that. You really can't counter tokens. Alright. I'm going to take a quick break. But this is part 1. This is Names of Goblin. If you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be doing a lot more videos like this. Hopefully not as long, because it's starting to hurt my throat now, but hopefully we'll see more of each other. This is Names of Goblin. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.